Okay. Got the title commitment here. So
Yep.
let's go over this.
Okay.
First off, Jolyn O'Brien, YHT. Now, if you're watching this video, I didn't even say this to you, Jolyn, but like it should, for the most part, it's going to be, you're under contract at this point and it's your next step. What's happening? I'm going to get this title commitment. What is it? Why am I getting it? What am I supposed to do with it?
Right.
What is the purpose of it? So Jolyn O'Brien works for Your Hometown Title. Obviously, if you don't know her, she's fantastic. So I'm going to go over this with us together because this is coming directly from the source. This is a real title commitment that we're going to run through here. I'm going to just ask questions to kind of guide the questions that I get, kind of guide us through here. So this first page, wire fraud, move right down to the next page. I hate when it looks like this one.
Which one?
There we go. All right, so I'm on the next page. So what is a title commitment? What is this?
A title commitment is a list from 60 years back of the history of the property, all old mortgages, any history of the property, any liens, anything. So go ahead.
So any liens 60 years back, and the purpose is what?
The purpose is to ensure that the buyers have clear title when they go to closing. So our job is to clear it 100% so that we issue you a clear policy.
Yeah. What is the timeline for this, coming about in a transaction?
As soon as you go under contract, it's really good to get me the contract and place the order in. And then it takes about 5 business days to get title back.
When you get an email with the contract that's fully executed, you take that contract and what do? You put in the names of the clients and the property?
Yep. The buyers and the sellers, the property, the lot number, because we normally go by the property lot and block number. We don't go by names. We'll do searches on them, but that's how we look up the property. So we have to ensure that the block and lot is correct. So we do 60 years back on that property itself.
And you work typically for the buyer?
Correct.
Okay. Now, are you looking up stuff about a buyer too?
Depending on the lender. If the lender requires buyer searches, then we're going to look up their judgment searches, but we're always looking up the seller's judgments.
So judgments being child support owed, a mechanic's lien,
any kind of lien. There's credit cards, there's any mechanic liens, there's medical, there's federal tax liens, state tax liens, anything that they would place a lien on the property itself.
On the property. So,
yeah.
Okay. So if it is on the buyer side, can you still issue clear title? Does it need to be paid off?
If there's a judgment on the buyer side, it needs to be paid off because the lender requires it.
Right. Okay.
Do not require buyer judgments to be ran. So a lot of times it can be clear. You have to check with your lender to see if they run buyer searches.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know for the state grant program,
you always do.
It's required. Yeah. So for this, I'm looking at the commitment here on this summary page. So when an agent gets this in their email, it's 29 pages, a lot of jargon. What should they be looking at?
Yeah. So the title alert's awesome. We just recently started doing this. This is a brief summary of what is needed in order to clear title. So on Schedule B, Section 1, there's a requirements, but we put them all on this page for you. So that's why it's numbered weird. So number 11, that's a cancellation of mortgage. So if you look at 11 and 12, there's 2 mortgages that need off at closing. So what the title company will do is order 2 payoffs at closing. So the flag, if you have the seller and the seller says there's only 1 mortgage, then that's a red flag for you that we need to order a discharge of mortgage if there's 2 showing up.
So by ordering title, by pulling title, you've learned that there are 2 mortgages and you essentially need proof that they either have been paid off or you need a payoff for them so they can be paid off at settlement.
Correct.
And that's for the seller to get. Most of these items on here are going to be for the seller too.
Right. Yes, exactly. And you can tell by the names. The names have to match the seller. So it says Wayne, that'll be the seller side. Right. And then look at number 13, there's actually a third mortgage to be paid off. So we have to order a 3.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can see the bank name and everything here. So with these things here that we're seeing, this is newer, right? That this is coming up here. So essentially, this document, if we just sum it up by these items right here, this is a commitment to order a clean title insurance policy for the buyer,
Yes,
so long as these things are cleared up prior to settlement.
exactly.
So just like a mortgage commitment has a bunch of conditions. Hey, you're good. We're gonna give you the mortgage, but you've got to give us new bank statements, proof of income, etc.
Yes, exactly. So this one's pretty straightforward and easy. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 are Patriot searches and judgment searches. So
Okay.
they all showed up clear. So there are no judgments in the names of Wayne and Eleanor and Robert. So we have free and clear Patriot searches also. And Patriot searches are to make sure that they are United States citizens and that there is not a red flag on that person.
So a lot of times we'll get an email that says something like, hey, you need to check and make sure that none of these judgments belong to the seller.
Right.
So would that be listed in one of these items down here potentially?
Yes, it would. It would say, like example 16, it would say, or I'll do 14. It's the bankruptcy court judges versus Wayne Rand. It would say shows, and then it would say the judgments that are popping up for them.
Gotcha.
And
so that would be for maybe a bankruptcy. If Wayne Rand had been in a bankruptcy,
Yep. Exactly.
that would show up here. Now, if we didn't have this summary here, we're really just kind of hit with this, right? As the first page.
Yes. If the summaries,
Let's say it's not YHT, but say we have the seller and we get a commitment from another title company. Now we really need to know where are these from, right? So we've got to.
Exactly. So you're going to go to Schedule B, Section 1, and it says requirements.
Farther down here, Schedule B right here. So these, if I go back up, I'm just missing my little. All right, so if you go back up to here, so on page 1 and 2, this is the nice thing about these from YHT. Like if you look at number 11 right here, if we scroll down to the meat of it in Schedule B, that's number 11 right here.
Right.
So they really just copied it from here and pasted it up at the top, so you don't have to go searching for things that came up.
Correct. Yeah, you only have to go to the second page just to see what's going on. And it just makes it a lot easier. And then this way, when you learn how to read title more, if there's a problem, you can go into more depth into the title commitment.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, so an example, not on this title report, there could be, if you go to Schedule B, Section 1, requirements, where it says production and record of deed, that is the deed call. Sometimes there's 2. So meaning that these sellers aren't entitled yet. So we need the prior deed. So we'll have 2 deeds. So that would come up as a red flag. And a lot of things that are really necessary, they'll come in red on the requirements. If it's really bad, or if it's something that we know that is a direct hit, it'll be in red.
Right, whether or not it comes from us. So let's say that something did come up in red here. Who typically handles fixing that issue?
The seller side does.
The seller side, yeah. So, and the seller side can have their own title company.
Yes.
Generally. So like when we have sellers, we always recommend that they use YHT
Correct.
to look over this, and then you or the processor for YHT will assist the seller, for example, in getting these payoffs that we didn't know about maybe, or
right. And I to do both sides, like to process both sides, because I'm in control of the whole thing and I know it's getting done.
Right.
So, and if I can let everybody know what's going on. It's not just going either one to the other. So I just like everything.
Yeah. So funny, because you say you like to have control both sides. So I used to say, it's just easier. Let's let the buyer's title company, even if I have the seller, let's just let them handle the seller side title, because it's in one house all together, until you deal with a not great title company. And like I did, and I had a seller where they pulled title and we learned of a third mortgage that the seller didn't know about. And it was an estate sale, and the title company was unhelpful. So guess who I'm on the phone with?
Yep.
everybody in their world trying to figure out how do we figure this out, because the title company was just not responsive or helpful. Had it been YHT, it would have been
Yeah.
handled. You
Yeah.
know,
I've heard that a lot. So thank you
so,
for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the benefit of using, your preferred title company, right? I almost feel like the seller side is just a service, it's,
It is. It is.
yeah,
It is just a service, but it can be more work than the buyer side. So
exactly. Right. That's why you want, when it's easy, like everything else. But that
yeah,
one time where it's a nightmare, you're going to spend, 90% of your time managing one transaction to figure something out that you could have not had to deal with at all.
yeah. And communication's key, like just to keep everybody on the email, let everybody know what's going on. If there's an alert right away, I'd like to let them know right away that there's a problem and that we're fixing it and this could be delayed. And, because if there's
Yeah.
an old mortgage title, I have to order a discharge that can take up to 60 days. So there might be escrow held and that could affect the seller in their purchase. So
Right.
there's a lot of things to it. But I like to communicate to get it all out so everybody knows upfront what's going on.
So other things that title looks at as I'm looking at the Tideland search. So
Okay. Oh, let me see what page that's on.
I can't even, 23.
23. Okay. Okay. So this is just a search to see if there's water, if you need to get, we check to see the elevation levels, and this one's clear. So
Right. It's
again,
clear.
yeah.
We have to be careful, especially, when in Burlington County, we do,
Yeah,
deals near the river. It's possible that you go under contract, whether you have a buyer or seller, without realizing your client's in a flood zone. They may have purchased it when it wasn't in a flood zone, paid the mortgage off, and have no idea that it's in a flood zone now. Now the buyer needs to get flood insurance, and that could throw the mortgage off. So
yeah. And what I've heard is recently the map has changed within the last year or two. And I guess it's
yeah,
because of water levels.
yep, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, so that's really
So that
common.
comes up in title too. So it's like one of those things where it's like, God forbid you miss that, you wouldn't get the settlement, probably, at least you shouldn't, without knowing or it coming up and being an issue before that happens. But the last thing you want is to have your client pay for inspection and appraisal and then learn that you're in a flood zone and it's $400 a month and they can't
Yeah.
afford it.
Yes. And if come up over, Jimmy, where it says findings, where it says
Yeah.
claim on that page, it would come up as a claim, and then we'd have to look into it from there.
Gotcha. All right. So
So-
moving down, these are the judgment searches. So a lot of times we work with a title company, and the title company, the processor will just send an email and say, can you confirm if any of the judgments are yours?
Right.
And it's 50 pages of judgments to look at. So
Yep. Unless your last name's Brown, then it's 300 pages.
yes. Okay. Right. So it can you, elaborate on that?
Yeah.
I'm looking at right now at, obviously this is clear, but
Yeah, so a lot of times when we put the order in, we'll send out an opening letter to get socials and birth dates. So a lot of times I can clear the judgments without any help, but a lot of times I like to send it just for the sellers or the buyers to review. This way I can get in writing that they don't pertain to them. And if anything is pertaining, sometimes it's motor vehicles, $100. A lot lately have been if they miss jury duty, it's a $500 fine. So I'll have to order the payoffs, and depending on who the company is, it can take a while. So it's really good to clear them away. This way we can get the payoffs and a lot of interest. Sometimes there's interest accrued. So, if you're anticipating being, your buyer being really tight with money, you really have to be careful whether or not there's judgments. This way they the amount of money for closing, because they have to be paid at closing.
the judgments have to be paid for clear.
Yes, they have to.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely something you run into. And I do say that a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times title issues cost you time, not necessarily money. They can of course cost you money, but almost always they're going to cost you time when something like that comes up and you're not prepared for it.
Right.
Because like you said, it takes a long time to get the.
Yeah, and the lender searches are different than our title searches. We use a different company. We use Charles Jones, so we're more. I'm not going to say more thorough, but we go more in depth. And if it's hitting a prior address that comes up, then it's going to come up for us. So because we order like name judgments, it's more likely they're going to come up rather than just typing in a social security number. So, because
Gotcha.
it can go old address, it can go by anything. So it just pops up. So it's really good to just get them cleared right away.
So basic process, get a contract, send it when congratulations, buyer, here's a fully executed agreement. Copy the lender, we copy title, you guys get to work. You then take the buyer's names, you have their emails because they're copied on that email. And if the agent didn't send it over, you're going to send over a form for the buyer to fill out that gives their social security and the seller.
Yes.
So that you can confirm that none of those, for the most part, you can identify, the client's name is John Smith, very common name. There will be 500 judgment. It could be, like you said, 300 pages worth of those judgments because that's such a common name. So you can take the social and look and see if it matches any of those judgments.
Right. I can either do the social, their date of birth, or an old property address. So that's why we asked on the buyer, we asked with their prior 20 years of where they lived.
Yes.
So we'll ask addresses.
So we get a lot of those questions when we go under contract. Agents, is this legit? Why did they need my social? And it's for that. It's unavoidable. It's just making it a lot easier on everybody. If you just give that information over, then we can, rather than ask them, your buyer, to read through 50 pages, you can easily scan for the social or the date of whatever.
Right. Or
and eliminate them.
If it is a Smith, I might just email and say, hey, can you give me your middle initial?
Right. Okay.
Also, that's pretty easy. But yeah.
And that's it. And then we get this document.
Mm-hmm.
So now title's ordered. And how long does it take from when you put the order in until we get the commitment?
About 5 business days.
5 business days. Yep.
2 or 3 days, but 5 business days, you'll have it.
5 business days, you get this document. This goes in your file in command. Done with it. Review the second page. Although know that if you're using, we want to be able to rely on the people we work with, of course. But as an agent, you should be opening this up and at least reading the summary pages,
right,
to see if there's anything. But YHT is very proactive. Jolyn will always say in an email, hey, this is the issue. This is an issue.
Yeah.
And point it out to you. So I think a lot of times we get these and they're clear and you might be like, what am I supposed to do with it? Well, thankfully, nothing. That's the whole point. We're good. We just need to get the payoffs from the seller. Shouldn't be an issue. Nothing unexpected popped up. And
my goal is for you guys to give me the order and for you guys to move on and to know that I'm going on. Usually a phone call, I will actually pick up the phone and call you if there's a big problem. I have a seller side that it's an estate and there was an old mortgage on there from 1972 and this title company was trying to get a payoff for it. And I'm just like, it's from 1972. So I ended up taking it off, but I had to fight with them for 3 days, but it was a rush closing. So I had to pick up the phone and let them know that there might be an escrow held and see if there's going to be a problem with that, because the quick closing, you want to get everything done. And sometimes you're not checking your emails all the time. So it's really good to have somebody that is going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Do you see that this is on here? And are you okay?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's awesome. So looking at the summary pages, and then do you send this to the buyer or to the seller?
The title commitment, I send it to everybody. I'll send it to buyer, seller. Well, I'll send it to, if I have the seller's email, I will, but I send it to the buyer, the buyer's agent, the agent, and the lender if there's a lender.
Awesome. So typically when this goes, I always send this in an email to the buyer and I say, no action needed. This has been reviewed, or hey, this thing popped up. Can you confirm, or deny, whatever. And then you move on. That's really it. It's just a piece of the puzzle. Once you get this, if it's a cash deal, we're good, then we can close. Yep.
We can close ASAP. And the buyers don't even need to attend a cash closing, just so everybody knows. A lot of people don't know that. They can sign that electronically through dotloop, and they can wire their funds, or the real can go with the check, but the buyer does not need to attend.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Love that. So anything else that we should talk about for these commitments, or?
No, just the tax cert. I wanted to go over the tax cert real fast.
Okay. What page am I on?
22, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah.
That's sad.
21. 21.
21. Okay, there you go.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the tax search, and this is where you can see if the taxes are paid current. This is an important one. There's a lot of tax sale searches too. Certificates, I should say. That's where a client, a seller might not pay CCMUA and be behind a few months. So then they're
Right.
going to put property in tax sale. So a lot of times, if you go to the second page on page 22, down at the bottom where it says CCMUA, it'll actually come up that there's a tax sale and it'll give you a date. And that's really important because you have to close before that tax sale, or the seller has to pay the tax sale before the tax sale happens, because they will no longer be able to sell their property until that's taken care of.
And that's for something as simple. This CCMUA bill, the Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority, is for your sewer bill, and you get it once a quarter in the mail. I get it. It's antiquated. It is entirely possible your seller misses this.
Yes.
I to be honest with you, I've done it. And I just didn't know. And then it's another, and I'm like, like, can I just pay it?
Yeah, I don't think of it. It's automated bill for me. So I've actually had orange paper in the mail, like your property's going to tax sale. I'm like, what?
Yep. Those things happen. Yeah, they happen.
Yeah, it does happen.
So that's what that is. We're talking sewer and CCMUA bill. So it just, since we're talking about it, why are these on here? Why are these on here? Why is PSE&G not on here?
Okay, so we order, PSE&G is through it's private. So when the transfer, the buyer needs to call PSE&G and they let them know when they're closing and to transfer the utilities in their name. We transfer the sewer and CCMUA and the water and the township. We literally call the township, and we'll give a transfer and tell them the date that it closes.
And you do that because since it's a public utility,
correct,
it's lienable.
Yes, it is lienable. And we want to make sure that it's transferred and the correct bills are billed to the on our settlement sheet. So we call the day up, let them know. There are private water companies though, such as Cherry Hill. We don't order final waters for them. So that's the example I've had and that I use. So New Jersey American Water, it's not on here. That's a private company. But a lot of townships, the water is through the township. Mm-hmm. And that would be on here. Correct. It's a public utility. And then you'll get a lot. When you get the settlement statement, maybe 4 days before settlement, there will be an escrow for the water, and it's usually like $600. I don't want your clients to freak out. It's only an estimate until the day of closing, and then when we get the exact amount, it changes. So we change it. So get that question.
Yeah, and we should do another one of these and go over a HUD, but
yeah.
But all right, so that's cool. The taxes, so you can see on here based on when this was pulled, the taxes have been paid. If they were behind on the taxes, we'd see that here. They need to be made current at settlement.
Right. It goes by the quarter, so it says paid on each quarter, and then they're to be determined for 8 and 11. So,
gotcha.
So if we get to like July and the lender needs 3 months of taxes prorated,
right?
That means we have to call. So we won't know the taxes until a few days before settlement.
Gotcha.
Unless the buyer wants to call themselves, they can call to see what their taxes will be will be, because now it's for some reason, I guess Audubon might be doing an assessment. I'm not sure. Do you know if Audubon's doing an assessment?
I hope not, because I live there.
Oh, do you live there?
I know my taxes will go up. Yeah.
I get assessments are going on, but it says added assessments none for now. But yeah, I don't know why.
They should be good on. Yeah. So
yeah.
But the other one more question, I think. So looking at the CO here, CO required on new construction and resales. Does your hometown title require a CO?
No, title companies do not require COs, so we can close without a CO. For transfer though, for ownership, as far as moving into the property, that's totally different entity. That's a realtor question.
Yes, just so we get this on the record, because YHT doesn't require the CO doesn't mean the law doesn't require the CO. It is required by law, every township, no exception.
Right.
If you can't get a clean CO, you can get a temporary CO. Almost every township has an option for that. That gives the buyer some time to make repairs or whatever. So, and the other thing is, but there are buyers that say, I don't care, I want to do it anyway. you know, as long as the proper documentation is signed, the buyer can, with your hometown title, our broker will allow you to close without the CO
Yes,
in unique cases.
correct. And if we don't receive a CO, we don't require you guys to send us one, but if we don't receive one, we print out a waiver. It just covers, just so
Gotcha.
we're all covered, that the waiver saying that I was not given a CO and I will not live in the home until there is a CO. And it says
So,
it's
yeah.
clean as day.
And yeah, and that's good. And it's important to note this because you said that title companies don't require the CO. They
Correct.
don't. However, there are some title companies more and more now that I'm seeing that are requiring them. They will not close without the CO. Yes.
Yeah.
We've had that be an issue. Now we have the buyer that once they don't care, they need to move in. They've got a moving van. They've got all this money on the line and they're not, the title company saying, we're not going to have settlement. We don't care because you failed the CO inspection. You need to provide the CO. So we don't have time to then call your hometown title and have you pull title again,
Right.
you know, and start the whole process. Going to delay us for
Yep.
however much time. So really important to note that. It's very rare that you aren't going to get a CO, but of course there are cases. You know, in that case that I just explained, they failed the CO because they didn't have a permit for a ceiling fan.
Yeah, I was going to say there was
So
one that,
we're going to hold up, and we say this to the township. You understand, this family's first impression of moving to this town is that they're essentially stuck in a moving van in a hotel, right?
Exactly.
Incurring all these expenses, homeless, because they don't have a permit for the ceiling fan. You won't issue a temporary, nope, sorry.
Yep.
And the title company won't let us close, even though they can, but some of them won't. So
yeah,
anyway.
and it's, I guess the only time that we would say something is if the lender required it.
Of course,
So
yeah.
Saying, hey, we won't give the package,
Yeah.
you know, until we have the CO. So then that's when we would reach out and say, do you have the CO?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, and I've seen some lenders, but none of the ones that we work with, none of our local lenders here. Sometimes the national lenders will pull that last minute. We need the CO, and you're like,
yeah,
so.
exactly.
But,
Or they'll, yeah, those out-of-state lenders, they'll ask for anything just to give them more time.
yep.
Always local.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. So no, but I appreciate it. I think this was helpful. I don't know how long this video ended, up being, but
yeah. If you have any more questions or need anything, just let me know. But
and then what? So as of the time that we're recording this, which is June 29th, 2022, you're doing a title talk when?
I have
Still
title.
doing them?
Yeah, but they're not doing classes this summer. In the summer, they're not. They feel like no one's coming out. So I'll have it.
Okay.
Unless
All right,
unless you want me to have one in Morristown, I'll totally have.
No, because I honestly have the same result. But I mean, if you have a deal, you can meet with an agent can meet with you anytime. So
yes, definitely.
So at the point of having this video, especially if you're in a deal and you're watching this, you've got Jolene's contact information. You can schedule an appointment, at any time.
Yes.
Talk about other stuff too.
One-on-ones. We can go over marketing. We can go over title reports.
Yeah.
I have mock closings. We can do whatever. So whatever makes you comfortable.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yes. I'm going to just